Dr. Carl Jung said, the greatest burden of the child is the unlived life of the parent. When we were little kids, we had to please these giant, also known as parents.
I often find it challenging to know when to say, listen to me, I'm your father, and listen to yourself.
We don't know. And that is the best place to start from. A lot of people misunderstand trauma. They think that it's only abuse and like shocking incidents, but no.
I've interviewed nearly 500 people. I'm talking to men constantly about regulating their emotions. And yet last night, I still did this. I still have a little bit of shame around it today.
What you have is consciousness. That's the difference.
This is confession time. So what do I do?
To me, the real solution to that is...
So your book is titled Stop Doing Shit You Don't Want to Do. And it says a straightforward guide to letting go of unresolved trauma. So what is the straightforward approach to letting go of unresolved trauma?
Well, yeah, I had my colleague said, you got to put straightforward on there. So I don't know how straightforward any of this work is, but
it's a nice goal.
Yeah, it's a nice goal, right? But, and we need something straightforward to address something that's pretty complex. It's actually simple, but it's not easy to do the work. And it has not been an easy path for me, I can tell you that. But the main and first thing is awareness, right? And that's why the book is entitled Stop Doing Shit You Don't Want to Do. Start noticing when you're doing things that don't feel good to you. Now, every once in a while, like for you, maybe you didn't even want to come to the podcast today, but now that we're into it, we're both all lit up, right? Yeah. Sometimes we do things that are part of our vision that we don't really want to do, but we know that it's headed toward the vision. That's an exception to the rule. Mm-hmm. The other 95%, when we find ourselves grinding away, we are being run by our unconscious trauma. Mm-hmm. When we were little kids, and we had to please these giant beasts, also known as parents or caregivers or whatever. There's giants. I mean, we were, 2 feet tall, and they're 6 feet tall. Giants. They became our rule makers, and we tried to please them, especially for the first 8 years of our life. Yeah. And then many of us revolted after that. But so we learned how to do that. And in those very formative years, we made up how the rest of our life is going to be. Yeah. And we were run by messages. I have to do this. I have to take care of that person. I have to take care of this. But money is a problem. I have to be very afraid of money, and 1,000 other things depending on what your circumstances were, right? So here we are, 40 years old, 50 years old. I'm yelling at my kids, or I'm exploding, I'm broke, or whatever the circumstances are, and I find myself doing things over and over and over that I don't want to be doing. That is a sign that there's trauma resolution to be done, and you have to get support. Yeah. I mean, so it's not straightforward. Yeah. But it's pretty clear to me now. I've been doing this for so long. Right. It's obvious that is the doorway to healing. Yeah. You have to notice the conflicts in our lives. What we try to do is medicate the conflicts, our when things feel conflictual. We try to medicate it, try to find a psychiatric cure, or get busier, or we find an addiction or that quells the anxiety for a little while. Yeah. Eventually, like you and me, we talked a little bit about our lives. We hit a wall that hurt enough to redirect us.
That's right.
Right? Yep. You know about any of that?
A little bit. Yeah, definitely. And spoken about it quite a bit, and keep hitting them in unique ways. And I think that's part of the process. There's a lot of directions that I want to take this conversation, so it's tough for me to pick one. But let me start with this idea of, as kids, we learn to be pleasers to our parents. There are these giants, they're the rule makers. And I've often wondered, especially with my 10-year-old right now, how do I tell him what pleases me? How do I create these rules? And I know he wants to please me. I know he wants to be a good boy. I, as an adult, looking back on my own childhood, can see the problems that I developed in my life by being a people pleaser, by wanting to please my dad and not paying attention to my own inner compass. And I often find it challenging to say to my son, Ocean, who's 10, hey, this is what I want you to do. This is what would make me happy. This is what would create a nervous system that I want to have in this house. And at the same time, Ocean, do you, right? Be fully expressed, pursue your passion, pursue your beliefs, be a sovereign being. Yeah. I find that very difficult to know when to say, listen to me, I'm your father, and listen to yourself and trust yourself. That's very challenging for me. Yeah. And I have been in the inquiry of this for years.
You're an expert. I know you love to tell people you're not an expert, but compared to the rest of the
I've studied this deeply.
Stumbling around trying to do this thing, right. You are an expert, and I'm an expert. I have a lot of degrees, yep. Right? And we don't know shit,
right,
John? We don't know shit. That's and that is the best place to start from, right there.
Curiosity, white belt mentality.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And whatever the opposite of that is, causes trauma in our children. We think that we are the teachers, the guidance counselors, the one that's supposed to tell our kids how to be, show them, push them, shove them, raise them. There's so many words that put the energy on us to make them good kids.
Yeah.
And they can feel that. It's a pressure. I don't know. You know how algorithms can notice what you're buying or no, it's listening. Somebody's listening to us right now.
Yep.
And I'm going to get things on my phone that are, what? I was just talking about that. Yeah. You know what?
Of course.
Yes. So I was coming here today, and last night I didn't even know it, but there's a show that you probably know called Dads, where they're interviewing comedians. Did you see that thing?
Yeah, yeah.
And I only watched the very beginning of it, but that was pretty weird. But Jimmy Fallon, they asked Jimmy Fallon, "What is a dad?" And he thought about it for a while. I like that guy, by the way. I bet he's a good dad. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
He said, "A hero." And, at first I almost teared up a little bit because my dad was my hero, for sure. But, with a little bit of reflection, I think I want my daughter to be her own hero. And that does move me.
Yeah.
I want her to see me being my own hero and to get permission to be that. That's how kids learn more than anything else. I think most parents have it completely flipped upside down. They think they have to put the pressure on themselves to be the shining teacher and guider and pusher and make them be good.
Yeah.
No. What kids need is to watch a healthy parent who is living their life in a healthy, enthusiastic way. And that's because they'll sync up with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research on this, how we sync up with our kids in traditional cultures. That they were, there was dancing together. There was, 24/7 or a lot more hours than we have actually in the physical presence of our children. And there is a syncing up that happens generation to generation. And, it's obvious in the Industrial Revolution, it's different. Dad goes to work. We have these very 2 hours at night at best. And so the syncing doesn't happen. That's one thing. And then you're an expert on this, about how fathers just go out and, leave to go be the breadwinner.
Yep.
And then come back in. And then the kid sees that and it takes it on, especially boys. We take that on, that's our job, that's how we're going to be. And all of the teaching that you and I do of our kids, it goes in, most of it, in one ear, out the other. It's wasted breath. Whatever we're trying to preach to our kids, just go to a mirror. Go to the mirror and preach your ass off at yourself. right? I have a little bit of frustration.
Probably get tired quickly.
Yeah,
not a bad exercise.
And then
go preach at yourself in the mirror, see how long you last.
Yeah, and just see what it's like for your poor kids who've been getting all well, I don't know how much we're going to launch into each other's story here, and we can go back to this if you want, because it's sort of a poignant point, but I lost a daughter quite a few decades
Sorry
ago,
to hear that.
and cracked me wide open. It was my first cracking.
Yeah.
And everything changed after that. But I slammed shut again after that, because I'm really good at slamming shut emotionally. And then the divorce and a lot of things happened. And then I got into recovery, right? I had enough walls that I had to ask for support. I got married again, and I have a daughter now who is graduating from college this week.
Yeah.
And I've done a much better job. I also had a stepson in my first marriage that I didn't treat that well, and I've done my amends, but I often wonder what trauma he's dragging around because of my unconscious parenting.
Right.
But I've done a lot better with my daughter.
Yeah.
But it's not a perfect science. We are humans, and we are imperfect, and there's no sense in blaming ourselves or our parents, or, blame just gets in the way of the healing process. But it is an imperfect science. My daughter will tell you, I am a great dad, but not a perfect dad. She's in Boston right now, and I'm going to go up there later this week for her graduation. And I often think when she's in another city, she can feel my anxiety or my judgment or my, you don't have to tell your kid what to do. They know what you want. They can feel it from a mile away.
What do you think she would say if she were here about what you did great and what she wished you would have done differently?
My daughter is not that demonstrative. You have to poke around a little bit to get to her truth. But actually, just recently, she said, "You're a good dad. You're better than most." What if we got down to it? I think I gave her a lot of freedom. I think I gave her a lot of freedom to be who she is. I also, she was not treated very well by her mom, and I went to battle to get her out of that situation. And I think she appreciates that.
Yeah.
And I think she would probably say that I have some judgmentalism. Is that the right word? Is that a word? Judgmental? I'm
you can
judgmental.
Make up whatever word you want here. She sees you as judgmental.
Yeah, and I see myself.
Have you guys talked about that?
But I'm very careful to not use that language with her. But she says she can feel it. If she says, when she wanted to drop out of UT after we worked hard to get her in there, and it was with every bone in my body. I said, "Sweetie, you got to stay in." That's what I wanted to say. I didn't.
Yeah.
But she could feel.
But she felt it.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? It was stressful for her to even tell me about it.
Yeah.
And so, we learn how to maybe not project, because my parents were absolutely told me what to do. There wasn't any holding back of what they wanted for me at all, and that's in my body. Right? I got to please. I got to do it their way, right? But of course, there's always a revolt. That's one of the things Gabor Mate talks about. You can try to put your rules on them if you want. Go ahead and do that, but you are setting yourself up for a major revolt. They will move away from you and move toward their adolescent friend group, and you will lose all connection.
Yeah. You've shared some stuff from Gabor Mate. Seems like you're a fan of his work. You're not like most men. You don't just scroll, you study. You don't just parent, you lead. And you don't just read, you implement. And that's why we made this, a no-fluff, battle-tested list of books that sharpen men like you. Picked by our tribe, proven in real life, these books are going to stretch your mind, fuel your growth, and challenge who you thought you had to be. These aren't just great reads. They're tools to help you grow as a father, husband, and a man. Get the list and all the insights that bring it to life at frontrowdads.com/books.
Oh, yeah.
What do you love about him?
Well, he gets it. He gets it. He knows that every problem that we have, and this is not an exaggeration. I think he'd agree with this, what I'm about to say. Every problem that you have, relationship, career, conflicts with anybody in your life, are run by our unconscious trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Up to and including World War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's for another podcast, probably, but
Yeah.
I can see it. We're all trying to compensate for our wounds that are lodged in the body. And that's the way I like to talk about it. You can talk about it from a neuroscientific perspective if you want, but it's just like too complicated for me. I'm not doing it. I have an image of my trauma that's lodged throughout my body. It's stuck there. When I was a kid, I couldn't cry in a certain moment because boys don't cry, and I'll give you something to cry about. So that feeling got lodged in the structure of my body, and it's been there ever. And that there's 100, 1,000 different little pockets of frozen emotion.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you tell a child?
And those turn into messages.
Yeah.
Those turn into messages that they tell. I can't cry. I'm not good enough. And then it runs our life.
That's what so I have this question about Ocean, who's 10, right? That I'm helping him to regulate his emotions, to breathe, to not freak out, right? To just emotional outbursts in all places at all times of day. Hey, is it healthy for him to learn how to breathe through it, right? But I'm concerned that also means stuffing it. Like he's learning not to express it, not to just let the emotion run through him and cry it out and shake it out and move the energy. But I want him to learn how to regulate. But I'm worried that my regulation is teaching him to stuff it.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
And yes, there's no better tool for any of us, than to learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
Deliberately, intentionally.
Yes.
Because when we get hurt, we start breathing in a really shallow way. We're under-oxygenated. For one thing, it's just physical. We're not getting enough oxygen. We're not going to be functional. And that's what fear does. It shuts down and also we start taking little breaths like a dog. And we're walking around, we don't even know we're doing that. We wonder why we're anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to take deliberate breaths, it has to be trained, especially for guys like you and I have been breathing that way for decades. It takes what they call a practice, right? A mindfulness practice, a breathing practice. Eastern cultures have it in their culture to do that. We don't.
Yeah.
We have go fast, be productive. That's what we have in our culture. So yes, it's a big deal. Teach your kids. Actually, let your kids watch you doing that.
Right.
Is the very best way to teach. I say that over and over to folks. Quit trying to get them to do anything.
Yes.
Let them watch you, and they will learn from that. Of course. Okay, sweetie, you want to breathe with me? All right, well, this is what they told me to do. You can do it with me if you want to. Right? And make it a game. There's a book called Playful Parenting, which I can't remember the guy's name who wrote it, but I recommend it. Playful parenting. Turn the whole thing into a game. It takes a little bit of effort for us serious guys, but it was very helpful for me. So on the topic of can I breathe over my feelings? Can I avoid my feelings by just breathing? And the answer is absolutely yes. It's called spiritual bypass, which I think you heard of that?
Sure.
You know about it?
Yeah.
Right. So we can use a lot of things to not feel our true emotions, including healthy things like breathing, right? Okay, I'm angry.
But let's unpack that real quick.
Yeah.
Spiritual bypass. Can you define that as you see it?
It's just there's a couple of the techniques to bypass my emotions are to breathe. I'm angry, but I'm going to breathe out of it. Okay, so now I'm not angry, but wait a minute. you are angry.
That anger had a message, something that a boundary that was being crossed.
It was
something
an actual energy in my body that I have just medicated, as opposed to let myself express it.
That's right.
Right, and the other way to bypass the emotions is smiling. It's just so many people are angry. Yes, I'm very angry right now. I mean, we have a need. I do a weekend workshop called the Deep Waters Experience, which we could talk about more if you want. We do 8 of them a year here in Austin or in San Marcos. And so many people, when we get into the really deep stuff, I look around and they're not happy. I can guarantee you that. But we have learned how to, and usually we learned it in childhood, to put a smile on that face, mister.
Yeah, that's what I learned.
Oh, yeah.
This was the dark side of like being positive.
Oh, yeah.
All the books I read about like, act your way into feeling. I used to give speeches about it. And I think there are positives to that approach. There's, of course, like everything, on the opposite side of a truth is another truth. And but I never realized the dark side of optimism for me and hope for me and all those things that I used to just completely avoid whatever was making me angry, to still continue to have no boundaries and just positive my way out of it.
Yep. It's very wise. That is a huge insight right there, John. That you should put on your promos.
Yeah.
It's a big deal right there, because we've been trained and taught to cheer up, mister. Mm-hmm. Wipe that smile off your face. I got a lot of those. Or wait a minute.
The opposite
of that, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, we have been warned away from all the emotions, including joy sometimes. What do you smile? What are you laughing
when
at?
somebody's telling you should be angry, or you should feel remorse or whatever, don't be happy. Right. And then the opposite, of course, is like, put a smile on your face. Right. Stop feeling so upset about whatever it is.
Those feelings trigger the adult. Yeah. Right. Because for many different reasons, anger, particularly in a child, triggers adults because they didn't get to have their anger. Right. Now, I know
that's deep.
Yeah. Now, your kid, 10 years old, he's going to have to learn how to not be screaming and throwing stuff at school. Or in public or what. He's got to learn that. I mean, you might have to put some boundaries around that, but otherwise, why do I have so much anxiety about him having his anger? As long as he's not going to hurt himself or someone else, what is it about me that can't just let him have his feelings? What is it about me? And I've been there, brother. It's like, how can I stop that? That's what's going on inside. You got to stop that is what's going on inside of me, because I've got so much energy stuffed in my body from my childhood that I can't tolerate it when I see it outside of myself. It's what is called a trigger, right? It triggers me. And a lot of parents are walking around triggered by their kids. I'm not saying that's the case with you. You're a conscious dad, but
it's happened last night. This happened last night. I was leaving jujitsu. So a couple things. I want to this is confession time, right? This is where I raise my hand and I'm like, I'm still in it. I'm still learning. I'm still getting triggered. Ocean was a jujitsu. He was goofing off. I was getting triggered because he was goofing off, right? And if I really look at my trigger around that, of why I was triggered that he was goofing off, I was worried that the coaches were judging me as a father because my son can't be serious and learn and really lean in. So I'm like, oh, here's a terrible dad who has a child who, right? So I'm probably playing some degree of that. I don't know what percentage, 3%, 7%, but it's present. The other one is I'm worried that if he doesn't really focus and try in jujitsu, he'll fall behind. If he falls behind, he's going to develop a limited growth mindset, which will then affect the rest of his life. I'm playing it out into his 20s, 30s, 40s, all because he's goofing off at jujitsu, right? Yeah. And, and then I'm worried and I have fear, right? Does he have ADHD? I start judging myself. Oh, I probably haven't had him diagnosed properly. I probably haven't supported him in his unique learning style. Maybe he's in the wrong gym. Am I forcing him to jujitsu when he shouldn't even be here? I have all this going on in little micro conversations in my mind. I get so frustrated, I walk outside of jujitsu, right, to my car. I can't even watch anymore. He comes out, and then I tell him when we get in the car, I said, I'm frustrated And here's why. Watching you be goofy, and I'm trying to like calmly explain to him that this is what my experience is like, and I want you to lean in. I want you to focus on attention. And he's really honest with me. He's like, yeah, I try to pay attention, but then my mind like hears something interesting or goes off on a daydream, and then I come back and they gave the instructions and I didn't hear the instructions and I don't know what to do when we're paired up. I have a lot of compassion for that because that happens to me too. I'm a daydreamer. But then I'm a little frustrated. I'm already triggered. I know it, but I'm managing my trigger. I'm breathing through it. We're on our way home. And then my son says to me, hey, the other day you didn't get me a donut. When you said you were going to get me a donut. And then he comes in with the sentence, in this family, it's really frustrating when, and here it comes, nobody does anything they ever say they're going to do. And I even I know I know that's not true. I know he's using language to just try to express it, but I'm getting triggered by these comments. And then we start talking about the donut, and there's a good reason why he didn't get this donut. I made a bet at the golf course. If he got within 5 feet of the flag, he would get a donut. But then he ended up going home with a buddy. There's a whole story around it. But meanwhile, even though I feel justified, the fact that he was accusing me of not honoring my word, dude, my childhood wounds are being activated. My integrity wound is being activated. My do I say what I'm going to do being activated. And I tried so hard to just breathe through this. But then I was like, forget it. I'm going to go get him a donut right now. I did this childish, we're going to the donut place. And now I'm angry at him. I'm angry that we're sitting in traffic. I'm angry that we're going to get a donut, even though it was my choice to go do it, right? And he's just sitting there and he's like, I'm sorry, Papa, we don't have to go get a donut. And now I'm ignoring him. I can't even address him, right? Because he's like, I'm sorry, Papa, I can tell that this was not a good idea. It's okay. You don't have to get me a donut. I'm like, nope, we're going to go get a donut right now. But my energy is like, screw you, little child. And all this is happening. I'm aware of it and I can't even get myself out of it instantly. I'm aware of it. I'm saddened by it. And then, I'm starting to drive a little more aggressively. Dude, we get home and Ocean is sad, starts crying. And I go into his room. When I regulate myself 15 minutes later, I'm like, hey, buddy, do you want to talk about this? You know what he said to me? And this is so brilliant this is a compliment to my 10-year-old, right? He said, Papa, he goes, it just made me really sad and I got scared. I got scared because when I said to you, I'm sorry that you didn't talk to me, I was scared. Then you started driving more aggressively and that made me scared. And he said, then we pulled up to the donut place and you were trying to buy donuts and the guy was giving you a hard time and then you were mean to the guy and that made me scared. And he just listed out all the ways that I was acting like a child on my own. This is my 10-year-old calling out his 49-year-old father. And all I could say, and I chose to say, and I'm glad that I said this, was I said, Ocean, I feel you on all of that. And man, if I were 10 years old and my dad were driving fast, I would feel scared. And if I were 10 years old and I said something to my dad and he didn't respond to me, I would feel ignored. And I said, I just want you to know that I'm really sorry for all that. And man, I hope you'll forgive me. And I don't want to do that. I want to do better next time. And I should drive more calmly. I should answer you when you speak to me. And I should be, I want to regulate my emotions better. So thank you. And the most important thing is I said, thank you for speaking up. Thank you for telling me those things. And I felt like that's when I felt like a good dad again. Felt like a shitty dad before that. But I felt like a good dad when I acknowledged him for speaking up. I thanked him. And I didn't defend it either. I didn't bring up, well, Ocean, if you wouldn't have said, nobody in this family ever, I didn't bring up anything he did. In that moment. Now, maybe later I will, but right then I just wanted to own my piece. But dude, I've said this before on the podcast and I'll say it again. I've interviewed nearly 500 people. I've been in men's work deeply for 10 years. I lead men's retreats. I'm talking to men constantly about regulating their emotions, right? Being grounded, being a solid human, all the things. And yet last night I still did this.
Yeah.
And that's just me raising my hand in front of everybody saying, dude, I'm still making mistakes. I'm still working my way through it. And I still have a little bit of shame around it today. Not a lot, because I've learned to forgive myself and have grace for myself. But dude, that just happened.
Yeah. Wow. Is there anything else to do here today? I don't think there's anything else that we could talk about that would have any more impact than that. What you have is consciousness. That's the difference. You have been doing enough work to be able to reflect on yourself. It's not that you're any worse or better, or that you can see it. There's somebody right now in this neighborhood treating their kid like that right now, and they won't reflect on it. They won't make amends for it, and their kid will watch that, and it will just perpetuate and move to the next generation, right? In your case, you've been vulnerable. Vulnerability is the solution to all of this, by the way. We learned that in 12-step recovery. We all want to apologize for what we did. We want to apologize, but not to make it right. We want to, because we feel shame. We want to not feel shame. Right. So anybody that's new in recovery wants to rush to the apology, right? No, that's much later, when it can be a genuine trying to make it right, like you did with your son. It was a genuine attempt to make it right. And what do you need from me moving forward here? And, the fact that your kid was able to talk honestly is a testament to the training that you've been doing with him. It's okay here. There is no consequence for you telling me your emotional truth. Right. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's huge, man. What a beautiful little story that you just pulled out of your ass.
Yeah. So easy to tell because it was 24 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm an older man. I'm giving you a blessing right now. You're good. You are a good dad. That was beautiful. And it's healing me just to hear about that.
Thank you.
There's one thing, if we're in a therapy session, which we're not, there was one thing in that beautiful saga that got my attention that I would have poked at. And he said, it triggered my old wounds. To me, the real solution to that whole story that you just told, but also the stories in all of our lives, the stories in my life right now, there's a very small thing that's happening right now. My daughter needs some pills that I got to get from her doctor, and I'm worried about whether I'm going to make it happen or not. And I'm like way too tense about it. And I got to show up for her, and she'll think I'm not a good whatever. We do all of this intense, and maybe if I kept talking, eventually somewhere in this rambling, I would say, it really triggers my old wounds. And then I'd keep going. Wait a minute. What is the old wound? Yeah. What is the old wound? Because that's, to me, is something. So what's the most important thing to do in parenting? Heal your old wounds. Well, no. What do I tell my kid? How do I teach him to be a better kid? Heal your old wounds. Well, yeah, I know that's important, but he's having anger issues. I got to fix that. And heal your own wounds. Dr. Carl Jung said, the greatest burden of the child is the unlived life of the parent. If we would have just listened to Jung gave us a solution in the earlier part of the last century, and very few people are listening. But to me, that is the solution to all parenting problems. Heal your old wounds so that you're not bringing that tension into every conversation that you're having with your kid. They feel it, and it goes in their body. Kids up to 8 years old are like a sponge for everything that happens in the house. We don't think it is. With my daughter, I've been very careful not to say the words. I'm very careful not to be outwardly judgmental, but she can feel it. So the solution for my parenting, and also, by the way, every rule that you and I come up with for parenting are also, and I know this is the other half of your beautiful gift to the world, is in leadership. All the rules for parenting are the same as they are in leadership. If I want to be a better leader, I've got to do my inner work, heal my old wounds, or I will be projecting it on the people I'm working with.
That's so true. Yeah, thank you for that. That's deep. And I can close this loop, and maybe it's an offering to our audience also listening, because the question that I have is, how do we do the healing? So let me share with you this about that moment. part of what I believe the healing that needs to happen within me and why that was so triggering is that when I was younger, and I'll just say younger because I'm sure it showed up as a kid and I know it existed throughout my adult life, and then I became more conscious and aware of it, was how I would exaggerate stories to feel more important. I remember doing it as a little kid. I remember doing it into my adulthood. I wasn't doing it to be hurtful. I was doing it to feel significant and important. I would exaggerate things and simple things that I didn't need to exaggerate. That as I realized as an adult, my greatest offering is to be completely truthful, right? And if anything, maybe even a little humble, just to err on the side of like less is more. But whenever that's questioned within me, as an example, that I'm making promises that I don't keep, as he maybe alluded to, right? Saying things that I didn't follow through on. There is a little bit of like an untruth, right? Like, am I not being truthful? So that's part of it for me, is me not being truthful. And then I also think about where I've been hurt by people, because one of my bigger wounds is people not being honest with me. So honesty and integrity are like how I've hurt maybe others or not been proud of myself, and how people have hurt me.
The question for you would be, if we were doing therapy, which we're not, but you are a vulnerable dude and you seem to be leaning into this. What happened to you when you were little around truthfulness and following through with things? And how did you get hurt around that?
Yeah. And we can talk about this. And by the way, and why I would want to talk about it was if we were able to give men listening a frame of how they could look at their own stuff.
What's coming up for me around that Jimmy Fallon thing that I was talking about dad should be the hero and have it all together. My dad was my hero. But I spent most of my childhood, at 7, 8 years old, I found out, wait a minute, I got to be tough like him. And I spent the rest of my life trying to live. I could cry about it right now. I'm still trying to live up to, trying to be as good as him.
Yeah.
I've got 5 degrees. He died before I got the last one. I thought maybe that would be the one. And, I've been trying to prove myself my whole life. And it's cost me a lot. It's cost me a lot of hours and time, love relationships that are, yes, he was my hero. And also, it rerouted who I was, because I never really got validation from him around all this touchy-feely stuff, the creativity stuff. These are my things. But I tried to be something that he would think was good. Right? It took me on, and that's what trauma does. Trauma, even in the mildest sense. A lot of people misunderstand trauma. They think that it's only abuse and like shocking incidents. But no, that's trauma when we try to be something other than what we are naturally. When there's something set up in the family dynamic where
say that again. Trauma is when you try to be something that you aren't naturally.
It's enmeshment. It's called enmeshment. There's family dynamics. We all try to keep the family balanced, right, one way or another. So if there's an exaggerated expression somewhere in the family, and there's an addict, right, there's going to be a good kid, right? If there's and if there's any circumstances where we're adjusting our natural way of being, and then we get used to doing that, and we do it over and over to get validated by our caregivers, we are being rerouted from who we are. It's an enmeshment trauma. And I tried to be like my dad, and I ain't. I am not a tough guy, man. I was, this is a tricky little thing. He used to tell me, don't be a limp wrist, which is some reference to gay stuff, I guess, in his mind. Don't let and actually,
we're just not having a firm handshake type of thing, like just not.
Well, yeah, he wanted a really strong handshake too. Oh, that was very important.
Yeah.
But there's this thing when you let your wrist go limp, like it's a little feminine to him apparently. But anyway, I noticed when I first got into recovery, I was like like
Your
a machine.
wrists were firm as
Oh
can be,
man,
right?
I mean, you could. But lately, with like right now, if anybody watches this video, you'll probably see me do, and it'll probably embarrass me to look at it, right? But it's when we are rerouted from who we are.
Yeah.
It's called enmeshment, right?
Interesting.
And it's it touched me just now because I've just realized how much of my life I've tried to get him to see me. He's gone. He's been gone for 12 years now, and I'm still trying to get him to see me. So that stuff runs us,
Wow.
John.
Bob,
That's the point.
This memory of like I was drinking at one point, like I was taking a drink and I put my pinky up and somebody slammed me for it. They're like, what the fuck are you doing with your pinky out? Right. And it's like, I can't tell you how that one comment, even years later, if I took a sip and my pinky left the cup, I would have to put it back on to make sure. Who was it important for you when you were little to be masculine, make sure that, because we're a full range. Men have a full range of emotions. For sure.
But culture tells us we only have this one little box where we're tough, smart, and fix shit. That's anything outside of that is not masculine.
Yeah.
Did you get some of that as a kid?
I meaning that, was that a goal to be in that box of tough? Yeah, for sure. To some degree, absolutely. My father was military captain. Most of what I've discovered and what I've said through my process of learning about my relationship with myself and with him was that I wanted to do things right. There's a right way to do something. And a great example of that is as an adult, my dad met one of my bosses when I had a job, and my boss, we had an event, my dad was there, and the boss who I worked for, there was some reason we needed to fold an American flag. My dad knew how to do this, right? To fold the American flag. And my boss came to me and said, holy shit, I understand you better now more than ever. Your father took 45 minutes to fold this flag perfectly, because my boss was on my ass all the time. He's like, you need to do that faster. You're taking way too long to do that project. Because what I learned was it doesn't matter how much you get done necessarily. It's how you do it, the quality of your work. So my dad would be meticulously cleaning his bathroom with a toothbrush. He would be detailing his car every square inch. So he might not play with me on a Saturday, but he would wash his car for hours on end, as an example, or mow the lawn meticulously and edge every blade of grass and sweep, right? Like, it was meticulous. There's something beautiful about that, to be learned about caring for your things.
It is.
The dark side of that is not playing with your son as much because you're so worried. Now, later in life, he actually was diagnosed as OCD. Yeah.
But I bet there was no fooling around at Tai Chi classes.
Oh, hell no. Oh, yeah. Oh, Bob, I never really thought about that, but I did take martial arts, and there was a no fucking around philosophy. You know, it really, in anything, there was a no fucking around philosophy, and a lot of things. So I think it was get your shit together.
Yeah.
There was this one moment when my dad, even as an adult now, meaning like within the last year or two, was visiting, and Ocean was playing with this balloon at the table, and I could tell my dad's nervous system was kind of getting on edge. And my dad was, I read him so well. His temper was boiling. He was watching this balloon bounce around, and he even asked Ocean, maybe don't bounce the balloon on the table. And Ocean just didn't think that was that big of a request. And then my dad like snatched the balloon out of the air and popped it and said, now what are you going to do? And Ocean was just shocked. And I think that's part of it. And that's part of the trauma and the wound and the recovery for sure.
And here's the thing, for anybody listening, and for you, for me, we love our dad. We both, like, he's a superstar, right? I know your dad's a superstar.
Love my dad.
Okay, we are not blaming anybody. Some people think that you can't look at your childhood without blaming them. They did bad. Yeah. Okay, if you want to do that, you can. In fact, there's a little bit of, I remember the first few years of my recovery, that son of a bitch, telling me I can't have my feelings. So, all right, I did some blaming. Okay. But there's not a lot of healing that can happen, because blaming is an intellectual process. It's actually a mechanism we have to not feel.
Right.
If I can blame somebody, I don't have to feel the hurt and the pain.
Blaming is a mechanism for not feeling.
It's another drug.
Yeah, that's right.
Resentments, blaming is another drug. And, in the recovery world, we say the drugs got me here. I mean, they worked for a while,
Yeah.
right? The resentment works for a while. The blaming works for a while. Go ahead and do it. And then let's get to reality, which is I am hurting right now in my body, and I have to heal it. And I have to be, I know you're sneaking up on the how do you heal it topic, right?
Yeah, sure.
We're healing it together. You and I just had some tears together, brother.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
We sit in a room. They found that out. Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson found that out back in the 30s, that the only way to address the most cunning, baffling, and powerful of all diseases in the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, which is what psychiatrists use for diagnosis, right? The most difficult one to address is addiction. It is so complex. Actually, they don't have any solution for it. There's no solution in a therapist's office for addiction, but the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, and now there's 50 different 12-step programs. It works for people that actually work the program. It is almost 100%, 100% successful. But most people don't work the program. They just do it drive-by.
Yep.
So they say that it didn't work. But what they found out is that there's only one thing that helps us into that healing space that will transform the way we've been doing things, even with addiction, the most difficult thing to address. And that is telling the truth with each other, with somebody that's been there.
So yes, definitely.
There's nothing that transforms us more. It's true for addiction. It's also true for healing trauma. You and I just helped each other heal a little bit here just now.
Yeah. Yeah. I subscribe to that 1,000%. That's been my experience, is the truth. And even in my marriage, that's the thing that, how can we truthfully say what's on our mind? And I used to speak the truth with a lot of fuck yous. It was like, here's my truth. And it was engulfed in anger or whatever. And now I'm learning to speak a truth with love, with grounded energy.
Well,
it lands better.
You've coughed up enough fuck you hairballs
that
right. They're not just vibrating inside of you as much, right? We got to get those fuck yous out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the first layer, right? Fear and anger are on top of that most important feeling, the one that we were told to avoid the most, you and me, from tough guy dads, tough guy culture. We were told never to touch that grief, sadness. Boys don't cry. It's, we make fun, that's the cliche, right? And it is a giant problem.
Yeah.
This culture that says boys don't cry. Well, I'll tell you this. I've been doing work with men and women for 35 years. Men do cry, and boys do cry. In fact, there's a mythology that I want to maybe on this amazing podcast of yours, we can finally break this myth that men are not good at emotions. I say it's bullshit, and I'm angry about this mythology that says men have to go to women to learn how to have their emotions. It's not true. All you got to do is give men a little bit of permission.
Yeah.
And in my experience, they're masters at grieving.
Yeah.
And why do we even care? Why is it important to grieve? Because grieving and letting those feelings come up from deep within us flushes out the system. It breaks loose that trauma that we were talking about. And that's how you let it go. Yeah. That's how you get it out of your body. We have to get down into the deeper emotions, and men are masters at it.
Yeah.
Women can get to the tears and then eventually maybe get down into that deeper stuff. But the other myth is that women are supposed to teach men about all this. That's their job. And it's, I was thinking about it. It's a little bit like this thing where where we put pressure on African Americans to teach us white guys how to not be so racist. That's not their job. We need to do that work ourselves. It's the same thing with women. Are we going to put another burden on women to teach us how to feel? Bullshit. Right. We can find that ourselves with each other. You and I just did a little bit of it. Yeah. But the way to heal trauma, the way to stop being reactive, pushy parents is to find support with people who are doing the really deep work and cough up those old hairballs of trauma. And the way they come out of the body is first sometimes through anger, owning that we're scared, the insight, but like you just shared that whole circumstance with your son and got it out of your body in front of you with another person who can hold it well and love you.
That's right.
This is how it works.
Yes,
we have to be in places where it's safe to do that. The bar room, it's not going to work. You can't do it there. You're not going to be able to do it in the workplace. We have to create containers that are safe enough, like the work that you do, like the work that I do at Deep Waters, like the work I do with my men's groups. Yeah. We have to have safe containers where we can find that deep place.
Totally.
Yep. And then what we're doing is healing the culture a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
I've quit arguing about politics. I'm done with all that. I'm coming at it from beneath. I'm coming at it from beneath. Heal the wounds that are driving the need to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Two things come up for me. First of all, vulnerability, since we're talking about that, and the safe place to be able to say things and the trusting conversations. We just had an event a couple of weeks ago in Phoenix, and we had 50 men in the room. And I was reading the surveys and their feedback and why this event was powerful for them. And we have two levels in our group, and our VIP group has smaller gatherings, more intimate, guys that are more committed per se to the Front Row Dad, mission. One of the guys came up and said, I think what VIP really stands for is vulnerability in person. That's what that group really represents, vulnerability in person. And that's what makes Front Row Dads very unique, is like the immediate safety they feel to be able to say things that they haven't even been able to say to buddies they've known for 10 or 20 years, because we create the safety in the room. And often I or somebody is willing to go first and be vulnerable about the challenges that we face, and then other people have permission to do the same. And we have a strong agreement around confidentiality. What's said in the room stays in the room, and that's really been honored well. Going back to what we are being vulnerable about is oftentimes these traumas in our life. And I wanted to get back to, what is perhaps, if you can speak to it, one of if not the most common trauma that men face. Is there something that you've noticed over 3 decades of doing work that, hey, if I look at thousands of men, one of the most common traumatic experiences of childhood that they are now dealing with as adults is what?
Well, we can come at it from the other end. At the Deep Waters experience, which is a 3-day intensive that we do 8 times a year here in Austin, there's a centerpiece to it where we use a lot of tools, including bioenergetics, Alexander Lowen's work. I don't know if you've stumbled into that. Psychodrama, though, about, right? Playing roles and healing trauma through J.L. Moreno's work. So it's a combination of that. It's sort of the centerpiece. Very powerful stuff. We've done a lot of work to get everybody warmed up to the work. I would say 80% of the men that step onto the carpet to do the work, if we poke around just a little bit, what's going on, brother? What's going on? What do you think they say? What do you want to take a guess? What is the main thing that they're struggling with in their life that they're telling themselves?
They're not enough.
They're not enough. Exactly. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I'm not doing it right. I'm not enough. It's called shame. Shame is running the show for most men. So we're reverse engineering this now, right? So we have these messages that run us. Where did those messages come from? Well, you have shame. Well, yes, I can feel that in my body right here. I'm not enough, and I can feel it sort of icky and gooey, and I can't even I don't know what to do with it. Okay, so then the next question is, where did you get the shame? Oh, well, and the answer is trauma, right? Shame is the byproduct of trauma. It is always the byproduct of trauma. When we were little kids and something didn't go right, there was a conflict, or the parents wanted something from the kid, or whatever it was, the kid does not say, Dad could really use a therapist. Or, Mom could, she'd probably benefit from a few 12-step meetings, don't you think? The kid does not say that. They don't see it that way. The kid's world is their world. It's one clump of them, right? It's an organism that is them, everything around them. So they don't say, that's probably mom's dysfunction. What do they say instead?
I did something wrong.
Yes,
yeah.
they're at fault. It goes in, and it happens over and over and over and over. If there's unconscious parenting, it happens repeatedly. It builds into what is called shame, dragging around a sense that we are not enough. I'm not enough. I made these mistakes, and I am a mistake now. That's the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is I did something that wasn't great. Shame is I am bad, right? So we drag that around. So you have to reverse engineer this. I'm not enough. I'm feeling shame. Where'd it come from? My trauma. And like I did with you just a little bit ago, I poked around, I listened to that whole beautiful tale, and the one thing in the middle of that you said, yeah, it's from my old wound. Whoa, let's go there.
Yeah.
And because that's where the shame is that drove all of that shit with your son at the martial arts thing.
So, Bob, you know what I want to do right now is I'm going to Ocean since we talked about him today. And I'm thinking, oh man, I definitely can see, and I'm worried and I'm concerned and I'm aware that I've created these moments where he now has shame, that he's taken it upon himself. Like he's done something wrong, right? To cause Papa to feel this way. So I now want to go, okay, my question was going to be, Bob, how do I heal Ocean? How do I help him to heal himself? How do I catch this before it's too late? And then I heard your voice in my head say, we got to heal you, John, right? So we got to heal you and start with you. So do I start with me and my healing, or do I go, because I'm dad to Ocean, do
the
I go
answer is
heal
always
him?
yes. No.
Yeah.
The answer is always yes.
To me.
Heal yourself.
Right.
Let him watch it.
Yeah. So what do I do?
Get off of him.
Yeah. Okay.
Get off of your kids, people. Get off their back. Let them learn in their own way. Keep them from running out in the middle of the street. Okay? And then do your own work.
Yeah.
It's not in your case, John. I'm learning from you here, so I don't want to get into this you're not doing it right thing. But even you, even me, that's been on this for, we will use things to not look at ourselves. Yeah. Let me say that again. We will use anything possible.
Even helping people, which is one of my tools I do now.
Yes.
I'll be useful to other people so I don't have to look at my own shit.
It's so boring. Fuck helping other people. Let them help themselves. Fix yourself. And then
that'll be the soundbite.
And what will be the result of me continuing to get help? What'll be the result for them? That's a question I'm asking.
Yeah. Say it one more time.
What will be the result for the people in my life if I continue to heal my anxiety, my fear, my anger, my tension inside my body, and just get deeper into an authentic life for myself? What will be the benefit for the people around me?
Yeah. Well, I think it's what we said in the beginning, or what we talked about, at least in my mind, it's a headline, is like, if I'm healthy, if I'm a healthy version of John, then everybody wins. If I bring that frequency, that energy, that groundedness, that range into a room, into a conversation, I believe whatever I can hold in myself, I can hold in others, and that my capacity for me allows me to have capacity for my wife and my children and all the things.
When I calm my nervous system, especially in that we were just talking about our, the father is the hero guy, right? It's like they're all going to try to please us and try to live up to it or whatever. If we can calm the nervous system and get our expectations that we have, even if we've learned how to not put it on them verbally, if we can calm that in our body, because it's old wounds, it's shame that we're still carrying around.
Yeah.
If we can calm that, we give them so much emotional space to be who they are. And there's no better gift a dad can give to their kid than give them emotional space to grow and heal and to make their mistakes and bounce off the wall. If they, that's a good way to learn how to not crash into walls, is to crash into a couple of walls.
That's right.
We want to keep them from dying, though. Keep them from dying.
Yeah.
But, my mom, my dad was kind of distant, and my mom was a serial pathological rescuer. She came into the school so many times and read them the riot act. She was a political person and knew everybody. And oh my God, she pulled me out of the fire so many times. By the time I became an adult, I thought there was no consequences in this world, which the world corrected me on that notion.
Gave you a few consequences
fairly quickly. But yeah, we can and it was an escape for her. Taking care of little Bobby was an escape for my mom because she had a life that was, both of my folks grew up in the Depression era, and then they, are both slaves of duty, take care of their kids and go to work. But neither of them had much fun, really. No, neither of them followed what was most true for them. So there was an underlying frustration. I became my mom's bliss, and that's not great. It's another form of enmeshment, right? Surrogate husband, really, in some ways. It's a little weird to talk about it, but my dad was not a touchy-feely dude, and she wanted that,
Sure, getting her needs met.
Yeah.
So makes sense.
All that stuff affects us in the way that, and that all got in the way of my relationships later on. I'm not going to try to unpack the details of it, but the work is always what you just said, do my own work. Yeah. It's not about teaching or fixing them or even empowering them. No, let them watch an empowered person. Isn't that what has inspired you the most in your life? Watching somebody, whoa, that dude, let me do that.
Yeah, definitely. What is the process or the steps for a man to become internally enough? Once he becomes aware of his not enoughness, what does he do to become enough in his mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah. Well, we've got to get the trauma out of our body. I just keep coming back to that. I don't know. There's 1,000 different ways to say it, and it probably needs to be said. You and I need to keep saying it 10 million times, over and over,
kind of how branding
in
works.
Different ways. Yeah, I had to hear it 1 million times before. Really? And then I'll forget later today. Yeah. When I'm frustrated about something, I will forget that what's really happening with this person at the counter who's acting like they don't think I'm important, and they're and I want to choke them. I will not think in the moment that it has to do with some little boy inside of me, which is a good transition maybe to that little person inside of us that we haven't talked much about yet. But, healing that little more vulnerable part of me that got wounded. Mm-hmm. That's always the direction, to cough up those hairballs of shame. Yeah. All right. That the shame sort of is the encasement of the old wound, right? It's keeping it trapped because when it was formed, it wasn't safe enough to talk about it. Like your son had the safety to talk about the shit that went down yesterday, right? And so he broke loose that little pocket that otherwise he would have just frozen. It would have been frozen in his body to put on his kids 20 years from now.
That's right. Yeah. Do you believe in the healing generations past and forward and when we do our work?
I just don't have time. I imagine there's something about that. I just don't have time to explore that.
To prove it, or
let somebody else is on that one.
All right,
so you can get them on your podcast.
Well, let's talk about inner child stuff.
What I do know is that my daughter will be carrying less of this into the next generation.
Makes sense.
I know that. And then her kids will carry less. Yeah. And that's how that goes.
Thanks for listening today, fellas. If you got value from this episode, I ask that you take 1 second right now and you share this with another dad in your life that you respect, that you know is committed to becoming a better man, family man, and businessman. And on that note, I want to honor you for choosing growth. Your family will thank you years from now for all the effort that you're putting in to learn the strategies so you can show up more fully for them today. Take care.